And there's substantial evidence that what DeepSeek did here is they distilled the knowledge out of OpenAI's models. And I don't think OpenAI is very happy about this.
It looks like OpenAI is making some serious accusations against DeepSeek. They claim to have evidence that the Chinese AI startup used OpenAI's models to train its own competitor. In other words, they're alleging that DeepSeek leveraged outputs from OpenAI's models to build and refine their own system. Now, this is big news, especially considering how DeepSeek's performance has been making waves, not just in the AI community, but also in the stock market. The fact that a much cheaper open-source alternative is rivaling OpenAI's models has already sparked a lot of debate. But now, if these allegations hold up, we could see OpenAI take legal action against DeepSeek for intellectual property theft. One key piece of evidence floating around is this screenshot right here. People started noticing something strange. When asked, "Who are you?" DeepSeek's model would sometimes respond by saying it was developed by OpenAI. And that's a red flag. See, if a model was trained on the outputs of another AI, let's say OpenAI's GPT models, then it could inadvertently pick up and repeat phrases from those responses. That's exactly what we're seeing here. If DeepSeek were built from the ground up without OpenAI's data, it should correctly state that it was developed by DeepSeek, not OpenAI. Of course, DeepSeek has since patched this. If you ask now, it will say it was developed by DeepSeek. But the fact that earlier versions mentioned OpenAI is suspicious, to say the least, and it doesn't stop there. OpenAI claims they have additional evidence showing that DeepSeek may have used a technique called model distillation to extract knowledge from their proprietary models. For those unfamiliar, model distillation is a machine learning process where a smaller, more efficient model is trained using the outputs of a larger, more powerful one. Essentially, the larger model, trained on vast amounts of data, acts as a teacher, while the smaller model learns to mimic its reasoning and responses. This allows companies to create lightweight AI models that retain much of the original's intelligence while being cheaper and faster to run. Now, OpenAI has actually used this technique themselves. They've reportedly been distilling their internal models, potentially something like GPT-5 or the rumored Orion, to create more affordable versions like GPT-4.0. But if DeepSeek did the same thing using OpenAI's models without permission, that's where the legal issues come in. Take a look at what Grok's CEO Jonathan Ross had to say about distillation, and how DeepSeek was able to rapidly advance its AI capabilities using OpenAI's models. He breaks down exactly how this process works and why it's such a big deal.
So what you do is you train a model, you use it to generate data, and then you train a model and you use it to generate data, and you keep getting better and better and better. So you can sort of beat the scaling law problem. One quick hack to get past all of that in the stepping up is, if there's a really good model already right here, just have it generate the data, and you go whoop right up to where it is. And that's what they did. So it is true that they spent about 6 million or whatever it was on the training. They spent a lot more distilling or scraping the OpenAI model. OpenAI was effectively subsidizing, accidentally, the training of this model because they were using OpenAI, right? And rumors are that OpenAI may not be completely profitable yet in terms of every token in the API. Like on the subscriptions, maybe, but in the API. And so each one that they generate, effectively, they were losing a little bit of money while DeepSeek was getting.
And he says it outright. DeepSeek was essentially getting their training data from OpenAI. When you really think about it, that's pretty wild. Now, here's where things get interesting. The article goes on to explain that model distillation is a widely used technique in AI development. It allows smaller models to achieve near identical performance to larger, more powerful ones at a fraction of the cost. In general, this practice isn't controversial, but the problem here is that DeepSeek wasn't just using distillation to optimize their models. They were allegedly using OpenAI's own outputs to build a direct competitor, and that, according to OpenAI, is a violation of their terms of service. We'll dive into those terms in a moment, but here's where things take another turn. OpenAI has been vocal about the fact that DeepSeek might have leveraged their data, but they haven't actually provided concrete evidence. And that's an important detail. By withholding specifics, OpenAI may be trying to prevent DeepSeek from covering its tracks. We've already seen how DeepSeek adjusted their responses. Earlier, when asked about its origins, the model would sometimes say, "I am a language model developed by OpenAI." But after this issue gained attention, they quickly patched it. Now it consistently states that it was developed by DeepSeek. Of course, DeepSeek has a defense here. They could argue that their model was trained on publicly available data, and since OpenAI's outputs are all over the internet, some of that phrasing may have naturally made its way into their training data. That's a reasonable claim. But the real question is, was it just incidental overlap? Or did DeepSeek intentionally use OpenAI's API to extract data at scale? That's what OpenAI seems to be hinting at, and if true, it would be a major breach of AI ethics and intellectual property laws. Take a look at what David Sachs, the AI czar, the government-appointed leader responsible for overseeing and managing AI policies, regulations, and strategies, had to say in a recent interview. He suggests that it's very possible DeepSeek used distillation to replicate OpenAI's model capabilities.
Is there IP theft here? Did they steal some of what they were able to scale up here from us? And do we need to close the doors on what we're doing in terms of invention and technology?
Well, it's possible. There's a technique in AI called distillation, which you're going to hear a lot about, and it's when one model learns from another model. Effectively, what happens is that the student model asks the parent model a lot of questions, just like a human would learn. But AIs can do this, asking millions of questions, and they can essentially mimic the reasoning process that they learn from the parent model, and they can kind of suck the knowledge out of the parent model. And there's substantial evidence that what DeepSeek did here is they distilled the knowledge out of OpenAI's models. And I don't think OpenAI is very happy about this. And I think one of the things you're going to see over the next few months is our leading AI companies taking steps to try and prevent distillation. And so we'll see if the leading AI companies can prevent distillation by third-party companies. That would definitely slow down some of these copycat models.
Now, let's break this down. OpenAI's terms of service clearly state that one thing you cannot do is use their outputs to develop competing models. And, well, DeepSeek is very much a direct competitor. So if OpenAI can prove this, it would give them strong grounds for a lawsuit. On top of that, OpenAI explicitly forbids any attempts to reverse engineer, decompile, or extract the underlying components of their models, algorithms, or systems. If DeepSeek was distilling OpenAI's models to build their own, that's a clear violation. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if we see OpenAI take legal action soon. Now here's where things get even more interesting. The article points out that it's actually common practice for startups and academic researchers to use outputs from human-aligned LLMs, like ChatGPT, to train their own models. A PhD researcher from UC Berkeley even stated that this technique provides access to OpenAI's extensive human feedback data, essentially bypassing years of training and development costs. But here's the problem. How do you actually prove that a company is using this method? Distillation isn't like copying lines of code. It's more like training a student based on how a teacher answers questions. If someone is just chatting with an AI model, how do you differentiate between regular usage and someone methodically extracting outputs for training? That's a tricky issue, and OpenAI can't just slap on extreme rate limits because that would make their API useless for legitimate developers. And OpenAI knows this is a growing problem. In their latest statement, they even admitted that Chinese companies and other international competitors are constantly trying to distill their models. They also mentioned that they're actively working with the US government to prevent adversaries from extracting and repurposing US-developed AI technology. But let's be real, this wouldn't be the first time China has been accused of copying or outright stealing US tech. Just look at what happened on March 7th, 2024. An ex-Google engineer was charged with stealing over 500 confidential AI files while secretly working for 2 Chinese companies. So the idea that DeepSeek might have borrowed OpenAI's work isn't exactly far-fetched. Now, this is where things take a really ironic turn. While OpenAI is accusing DeepSeek of copying its data, People are calling out OpenAI for doing the exact same thing to the rest of the internet. Think about it. OpenAI is essentially saying, hey, DeepSeek, stop stealing our data. But at the same time, critics are responding. Wait a minute. OpenAI, didn't you scrape the entire internet without paying anyone? And it gets even crazier. OpenAI is currently facing lawsuits over the data it used to train its models. And in a bizarre twist, their own engineers accidentally deleted critical evidence related to a training data lawsuit. Yeah, you heard that right. One of the biggest AI companies in the world just so happened to erase potential evidence in a major legal battle. So, in the midst of all these accusations, the real question is, does OpenAI even have the moral high ground here? But let's shift gears for a second. I want to talk about benchmarks because they give us an actual comparison of DeepSeek's performance. One of the best places to check this is the LMSYS chatbot arena. If you're unfamiliar with how it works, here's a quick breakdown. A user enters a prompt, and two AI models generate responses. The kicker? The user doesn't know which model is which. They simply pick the response they prefer, and over time this creates a ranking of how models stack up in real-world usage. And right now, DeepSeek is tied for first with ChatGPT and Google Gemini's latest model. So, despite all the controversy, DeepSeek is proving to be a serious player in the AI race. However, there's a catch. On more specific benchmarks, like SimpleBench, which tests human-style reasoning, DeepSeek's performance tells a different story. These tests include real-world logic questions, like estimating how long it takes for ice to melt, which are straightforward for humans but challenging for AI models. So, with all of this in mind, where does this leave us? On one hand, OpenAI is making serious allegations against DeepSeek, claiming they illegally used its outputs to train a competing model. On the other hand, OpenAI itself has faced similar accusations for scraping data from the internet. And if this goes to court, the legal battle could set a major precedent for how AI companies protect their models, or even how AI itself is developed in the future. One thing is for sure, this AI race is heating up, and the competition is only getting more intense. So, what do you think? Did DeepSeek cross the line, or is this just how AI development works? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you want to stay ahead of the curve with the latest AI news, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on future updates. See you in the next one.